Welcome back, everybody, to Disrupt You, or to Chris's book club. This book is Disrupt You by Jay Samit. So we're on chapter 7, and it's titled Pivoting Your Energies. And the quote of this title is, "There could be no real freedom without the freedom to fail." And that's from Erich Fromm. It's like a German name, Erich Fromm. Anyways, basically, this chapter focuses on pivoting. That word, pivoting your direction, your energy, right? Your energies, and we'll go into it. But it's more about like what other companies had to go through with their business, the process they had to walk themselves through, or the ideas they had to change, or the ideas that they had to fill in. And it kind of explains how that is an important reason when creating a business or creating the next disruption, right, in an industry. It also talks about a word called effectuation, and I'll elaborate more about that when I get to it. And then it talks about data, and it also talks about how it is important to just go out there and just begin. Okay, and I mentioned that in the last chapter, how it's just important to just begin, right? The last video. But again, I'll go through my main topics and kind of explain them. So, or highlights. So this one is from Jack Welch, the GE chairman. Change before you have to. But for the first time entrepreneur, knowing when to plow through it and when to change direction is the hardest decision to make. Emotionally, it can feel like abandoning your baby in a forest, or worse, selling it to a butcher to be cut into pieces. In a constantly changing world, learning when to pivot is a skill that is useful for any business. For every cliche and how winners never quit and quitters never win, there's another one that says, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. Now, this has been a huge challenge, and I'm kind of like, so I'll explain, right? So when I got into this new store, I was relocated. It was a hard transition for the employees that used to be there for so long, trying to get them to understand how new things are going to work. And a lot of them would say, well, it's always been done this way. And that's the worst thing you could say. I've always done it this way. Because in times, things change. And if you don't change with time, you're going to get left behind. That's it. I've always done it this way. Oh, it's always this way. Like I said, you're going to get left behind. So that's that. Always remember that. In a constantly changing world, learning when to pivot is a skill that is useful for any business. Now, what this means is there's examples in the stories that talks about how Instagram was going in one direction and realized people liked it in this direction. Talked about how Twitter itself, it talks about how Twitter, the same thing. They had a B, and a C plan, and when they realized that the A plan, the B plan wasn't cutting it, but the C plan was really flourishing, they said, let's focus all of our energies into plan C. For most businesses, pivoting is less about big changes in direction and more about adjusting to ever-changing market conditions. Businesses are sailboats cutting through choppy waters. In order to move forward through calm winds or storms, the captain must tack the ship back and forth in a constant series of minor adjustments. Test, verify, and adjust is the only way to stay on course. Data has no ego and makes an excellent co-pilot. So data itself, and I'll say this, I'll take it from here, but data itself is going to be your truth. Right? Because you could tell yourself this one thing and make yourself believe it, like, this is going great this way, all my customers love it. But when you get customers that have been buying your product to take a survey, and they truly tell you they're the reasons why they buy it and it's different from what you were thinking, you get kind of butthurt and you're like, wow, I didn't see it that way. I really thought it was going this way, which is why data is super important, right? Because even though it looks like it's working you this way, which is your way, it's really working the other way, which is the customer's way. And obviously the customer's way is what we want to go after, right? They're the one buying our whatever we have created. I tell entrepreneurs our business model is like going to the eye doctor. Better like this or like this, A or B or C. Twitter CEO Dick Costolo says, oh, C's doing better than B. Let's do more C. So when small adjustments do the trick, look at what you built and see if there's any traction or proof that will be more successful pursuing a different direction. The founders ditched the whole check-in concept and pivoted to photo posting and social sharing. So Bourbon was a Foursquare wannabe mobile app started by Kevin Sitstrom and Mike Krieger. The app gave user points when they checked into a location, and in order for this app to really register it, they truly had to be in that location and then checked in. But they pivoted into another direction because they realized people just like taking pictures of their food and sharing it. This app was called Instagram, later named Instagram, and then sold to Facebook for $1 billion. So they pivoted. One thing too, like a lot of PayPal workers, co-employees, really created a lot of these apps that they went after. Yelp was one they created, and it wasn't really focused on writing reviews about local businesses on an app. It was more about emails. And they realized people didn't really like send email reviews. So guess what they did? They created an app based focus on just reviews. Not all pivots end in success. The vast majority of startups fail, but failing is part of the entrepreneur process. Success doesn't teach us as many lessons as failure does. Dealing with failure of a business is never easy. In a sense, it is an admission that the direction in which you were headed wasn't working. Testing a concept before you roll out a new business is the iterative way to disrupt. The single biggest reason most startups fail isn't that the founders had a bad idea. They fail because they run out of capital before they discover how to bring their idea to the market. Smart entrepreneurs learn that they must fail often and fast. Another thing too, it talks about like if you have a certain pot of money, capital, you want to use that capital to try multiple different ways your business could go. If you're focused on just one direction and that's where all your capital is focused on, you're most likely going to fail, and then you're going to run out of money to really look after your other B, C, and D plans. So get a way to find something that's really cost efficient, and you could pivot different directions to use your capital and see which works out. What was most interesting about the test results was that the perfect choice was irrefutable. Data is the most rational and productive member of any startup team. Invite data to as many planning meetings as you can. Data may disappoint, but it never lies. Effectuation is a set of decision-making principles expert disruptors are observed to employ in situations of uncertainty. The process begins with simply defining what you know about your new business and its underlying market. How big is the business? How many competitors will you have? What is your target demographic? Are product offerings perennial or constantly changing? The list of questions should be exhaustive. Try to interview as many potential consumers as you can. The goal of the process is to become an expert on how the market for your idea currently functions. Next, add to that information what value you could bring to or capture from the market. The focus is to define your goals for the new business ideas. I can't stress enough the importance of the third step, meeting with people in the target market. These should not be friends or family who will tend to think they are helping you by giving you false praise and encouragement. These should be actual consumers who feel their lives would benefit if your innovation was successful. Real consumers actually value their time as much as their money. If your ideas lack merit, they will let you know. If most of your focus group or users hate your idea, it's time to take another direction or abandon ship. Real consumers actually value their time as much as their money. Never stop talking to your customer, and you'll never stop learning how to improve your business. Once you begin getting commitments from stakeholders, your business has a base to build on. A business growth is then a factor of its virality and customer acquisition costs, both of which can be molded very quickly, and marketing spend can be adapted accordingly. Pivoting is not the end of the disrupting process, but the beginning of the next leg of your journey. Most startups' failures results from entrepreneurs who are better at making excuses than products. Customers and data instantly let you know how your business is doing and where it's heading. Yet too many people continue to pursue the same path in their life or their company without admitting that something isn't working. As the astounding success of YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter illustrates, failing isn't the same as failure. The only true mistake is not realizing the value of the mistakes you are making. Most startups' failures results from entrepreneurs who are better at making excuses and product. Make mistakes small and fast, advises Silicon Alley honcho Miles Rose, who assists New York area startups with capital raises. The faster you pivot, the more time, money, and energy you have to spend on a better idea. So this chapter truly focuses on really being that person who's open, like completely open to not criticism, but to advice to the customer, really saying, you know what, I truly don't like this. And you being able to deal with that. You being able to change directions, or you being able to just say, you know what, let me try this other thing. Because if you there's this other saying that if you live constantly repeating the same thing over and over again, you're living in suicide. Because you're trying to get a different result doing the same thing over and over again, even though it produces the same result. And you're trying for a different one, but you can't because it's producing the same result. You got to be able to identify, look at yourself in the mirror and say, you know what, that's not working. Let me try something else. It doesn't necessarily mean, hey, give up what you're doing and stop and give up on everything and move on. No. What it's saying is take it back. Take it back to the board and look at your failures, look at your successes, and see what you can move around. Maybe you could stick to your idea, but how can you move things around to keep the consumer entertained or interested or consumed by it? It's not for you to say, you know what, they don't like it, done, boom, bounce, and that's it. And then you consider yourself a failure. There's a difference between failing and being a failure. Failure and failing, two different things. When you put it into perspective, you fail a thing, you correct it. When you become a failure, you decide to just give up and not continue. Don't be a failure. Just be one that learns from failing. But yeah, that's basically what this chapter was about. So again, as an entrepreneur, be open to that. Be open to feedback. Be open to using data as going to be your most truthful and honest tool to use. You may not love to see what results are going to come your way, but those are the results that are going to change your business. But chapter 8 is titled Unlocking the Value Chain, and we'll get to that in the next video. But again, thank you for watching this. Thank you for being part of this book club. Like, subscribe, share these videos. These books itself, if you put them into your life and put them into works, they're gonna make you successful. They're guidelines, and they're ways to really tell you, like, hey, are you up to it or are you not up to it? It's not easy. It's challenging, but it's also not the hardest thing. It's just challenging. There's a difference between challenging and it being hard, right? Being hard kind of gets you to say, I don't want to do it. Being challenging gets you to say, like, suck it up. Let's get it. Let's go after it. But again, thank you for watching this video. Thank you for being part of this book club. Like, subscribe, share this, and be here for the rest of these chapters. I think there's like 7 or 8 left, and then we're going to read 2 more. Have a good one.